Rather than run away and guard yourself, embrace the people around you that actually call you out on your shit. All right, shout out to Matty for being able to come in and talk to us about that. But now we're into the meat and potatoes of this episode. We're into the thing that matters the most. And I want to talk about the avoidant attachment style. This has been something that's really been popping up a lot in social media lately. And for those that don't know, the avoidant attachment style is an insecure pattern where people, they have like they practice extreme independence, which isn't necessarily, but they do that at the behest of like, of kind of ignoring discomfort and emotional intimacy, and they really run from those things, and they usually have difficult trusting people. And then the moment that trust trigger gets hit, it turns into a complete and utter shutdown where they remove their self from stuff. So we're just identifying that first, right? When you look at what are some characteristics of the avoidant attachment style, the emotional avoidant attachment style. One, high independence, right? A strong need for personal space and self-reliance, often seen as self-sufficient or lone wolves. Now that in itself isn't bad. I'm a lone wolf myself, so that in of itself isn't bad, right? But here, let's get into the kind of the negative aspects. Emotional distance, right? And that is a difficult of expressing or understanding or accepting deep emotions from themselves or others. You'll see some people with this is that they're very emotionally aware, right? They will be very aware of how they feel emotionally, but sometimes they can't communicate it. Or when somebody communicates something that they don't see for themselves emotionally, it usually is then met with like this negative act and this pushback to where they almost completely shut down, right? And then also like a fear of intimacy or the withdrawal of intimacy the moment that some of that closeness gets hit and you trigger some of that in them. And then of course that withdrawal. That is the biggest aspect of this is the pull away, the complete shutdown and becoming distant when their partners or friends try to get closer during conflict specifically, right? And then lastly, the trust issues. They struggle to rely on others that really trust. And the moment that anything pops up, any type of red flag, whether they communicate or anything, they really run from it. Now, this can start from childhood. This can go so far back as when they're developing their emotions as a child. It can get there. And if you had to deal with emotionally unavailable people in their life, it can trigger that. And then that child then learns to suppress their emotions and they become overly independent at a young age. And then, of course, that becomes their safety zone. When you look at how it affects relationships and friendships, it can be cold sometimes, especially when that trigger gets hit. And then also like sometimes their partners feel like, hey, I'm close to them. We love them. We're in love. But I don't really feel like I can get as close as I needed to really make this attachment feel like it's for both of us, right? And then the healing and growth, right? The self-awareness of the pattern is the thing that really strikes the hardest in this, is that those people have they don't really identify that. They have self-awareness of how they feel, but they don't always have the self-awareness about how that may affect the other people around them, which then leads to that withdrawal and things that we have. And then also the developing healthy communication patterns, right? Usually people who have the avoidant attachment style, they don't really have healthy communication in the sense of conflict. Like I said, they may be very emotionally aware. They may be able to very articulate. But when it comes down to getting into the really needy and gritty to really deal with some things, that's where you start seeing that healthy communication really lack in a lot of areas. And then that leads you to where you get to the withdrawal part of it, right? So I want to talk about it with this. How do you deal with being an avoidant, right? How do you deal with trying to come out of that avoidant nature? And so I have this is this called anagram, whatever it is, called Blue, right? And this is named after somebody that I know that does have the avoidant attachment style that I dealt with in the past. It's Blue, and I want to talk about it from this sense, right? So how to deal with being an avoidant, how to come out of that avoidance. First, it takes work, it takes self-reflection, and you first have to admit that you are that. But let's get into the blue aspect of this, right? One, the B, build. You have to learn to build the right habits to overcome the fear associated with being an avoidant. You have to learn to do those things, and that sometimes can be the hardest thing for the avoidant attachment style is the building part of it, right? They can get to a place of having this great and effective and beautiful emotional feelings and love and passion for somebody. But when it comes to really building something, right, that doesn't mean just the love that comes in it and showing and reflecting love. It takes building. Building takes more than that. And especially when you talk about relationships or you talk about any of those type of things, friendships, Building is the part that really that gives the foundation of it. You don't have it if you can't build. And building that foundation, that safety net. And because emotional avoidance run away, it usually leaves people around them or the people that they have to deal with when it deals with that conflict to feel that withdrawal. And so sometimes you'll see this the avoidant surround themselves with people that really support the negative actions. They don't really call them out on the negative actions, and that, give them the mindset of, I'm right for this, because again, they don't maybe push and ask the questions. But the avoidant also has a habit of really only communicating their side of it and their view rather than the actual full picture. So you have to learn to build. That's the first thing. Now let's get into the L. Listen. Sometimes avoidant attachment people, they have a problem with listening to what's said because they're more focused on how they feel. And I want to be clear here, even if their view on it is skewed, their feelings are still valid, right? That's the thing that feelings are valid no matter why you feel them, the feelings are valid. Now, to sometimes deal with those feelings, that's when you have to learn to get into the root of why that is and talk about it. And that's where the avoidant can become a little bit difficult in doing that. But if you have suffered from that avoidant attachment style, the thing you have to do is listen. Learn to listen for what they're saying, not just for how you feel and not just for what you want to hear, right? That's a big thing in this. Sometimes the avoidant, they want to hear things the way they see it. They only want to hear things that reaffirm that feeling. And you really have to take a step back from that sometimes as an avoidant attachment style and realize, let me step back. Let me look at this for what it is, and then let me listen to how this person's feeling. Ask questions for clarity, to listen to what they have to say, not just to listen to see if you hear what you want to hear, and that sometimes could be a thing, right? Communication isn't just about, what's being said. It's also how that person takes it, and sometimes you have to overcome that. Unlearn. You have to unlearn or understand. Either you works in that one, right? You have to understand and unlearn the habits and the situations that got you to being an avoidant. What did we talk about earlier? A lot of people that have the avoidant attachment style, that really is rooted in childhood and abandonment. It could be issues with their father, having an emotionally unavailable father or mother, having to have a high level of independence early where you feel like you're not heard and things are kind of just all on you. You have to unlearn that, right? And so a lot of that could have been built up and started way further back than when you realize. And so you have to unlearn that to make that happen. And, it gets a little difficult for people at times to be able to accomplish that, but you have to get to that place. The E, embrace. Rather than run away and guard yourself, embrace the people around you that actually call you out on your shit, right? Embrace the person. If you love this person and you believe this person loves you, embrace what they have to say, even if sometimes it can be a little bit triggering, even if sometimes it can be something in a way that you don't view something yourself. Learn to embrace that, because through doing that, that's what can lead you to honestly getting to a place of just having, really seeing what things are for what they are. And that could be the very difficult part in all of this. You have to be willing to do that part of it. And without that part of it, the work is so much more difficult, right? Embrace it. Embrace the people that see things differently than you. Embrace the people that have a difference of opinion. Embrace the people who say, hey, listen, I hear what you're saying on this, but not to say that what you feel isn't valid, but hey, you're missing this part of it. Or hey, this is the part that you're kind of, honestly, you're skewed a little bit based off your perception. Perception isn't always reality, right? And feelings aren't facts. That doesn't mean that they're ignoring your perception or that your feelings don't matter, but it means that, hey, you have somebody around you that cares enough about you to then go on and say, listen, you're tripping right now, and this is why you're tripping. And some people really don't want to hear that, especially when they deal with the avoidant attachment style. So, we'll see what happens with that and how people grow from that. I love to hear from you guys on that. I think that the avoidant attachment style, especially with social media, the whole protecting your peace thing, it's starting to become more and more common. And I think people are catching themselves in the bad emotional habits. They really don't realize are bad emotional habits because of the way that they're not dealing with themselves. And that's the part that you really have to learn to overcome if you really want to be able to get better as a person and overcome this avoidant attachment style, because it can lead you to miss out on people that genuinely love you, care for you, and want to see the best for you. But things may be a little bit triggering at times because, again, you have to overcome some of that. I think also we just have to remember, right? Especially as you get older, everybody has their own life that they lived, right? And to get that to overlap and to meld to where you can build something together, it really does take time and effort. And so if you find yourself with somebody that you feel may be an avoidant, or that you notice may have that avoidant attachment style when it comes to feelings and all that type of stuff, just remember, don't give up on that person, especially if they're worth it. That's the thing that you have to find, if they're worth it. And if they are, you work through it. And it's just that simple. It takes time. It takes patience, right? It takes a lot of that. But you can't stop somebody from being an avoidant. All you can try to do is to create a space safe enough to where you can communicate and that they can grow, and from that, and that you can support them in that growth. Not baby them, but support them in that growth. And that's the thing that sometimes takes some time for people. So we'll see what comes of it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys so much for everything that you have done, and the people that are popping back into the Awakened Soul. If you want to follow us, you can do so at Awakened Soul Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, theawakenedsoulpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail so we can hear from you guys and how you feel about this, the number to do so, 614-547-2039. And thank you guys for tuning in to The Awakened Soul, the #1 spot for everything Black culture. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.